All right, let's talk about the microscopic powerhouses that are right now making your life possible. I mean, they're the unsung, totally invisible workers running the show inside every single one of your cells. We're talking about enzymes. But to really get why they're so important, let me ask you something. What if every single thing your body does, digesting lunch, healing a cut, even just thinking, happened in agonizingly slow motion?
Well, that's pretty much the world we'd be living in if we didn't have enzymes. They are the biological accelerators that stop that from happening. Without them, the chemical reactions that keep you alive would be so unbelievably slow, they might as well not be happening at all.
So let's dive in. What exactly are these things? We're about to unpack what they are and why they are the secret ingredient to life's incredible speed and efficiency.
Okay, so what is an enzyme? At its very core, it's a special kind of protein that acts as a biological catalyst. You know, a good way to think of it is like a tiny, super efficient factory worker. It takes in raw materials, helps transform them at lightning speed, and then, bam, it's immediately ready for the next job, completely unchanged. It is the ultimate reusable tool. And you really can't overstate how important they are. I mean, this quote really says it all. Almost all biochemical reactions in living things need enzymes. With them, things go way, way faster. Without them, life as we know it just grinds to a halt. So how do they actually pull this off? Well, to understand that, we need to meet the key players involved in the whole process. There are only a few, but each one has a super important role to play. First up, we've got the substrate. This is the starting molecule, you know, the before picture. If an enzyme were a carpenter, the substrate is the block of wood it's about to turn into something new. And after the enzyme works its magic, what you're left with is the product. That's the after picture. So, sticking with our analogy, if the substrate was the block of wood, the product is the finished carving. It's a really simple transformation. Substrate goes in, product comes out. So, where does all this happen? The magic happens at a very specific spot on the enzyme called the active site. You can think of it like a tiny, custom-built workshop or a docking station, a precisely shaped little pocket where the substrate fits in and the transformation begins. And you can see right here how it all works. The shape of that substrate is perfectly complementary to the shape of the active site. This incredible specificity is what makes enzymes so special. They are not a one-size-fits-all kind of tool. Each enzyme is a specialist, designed for one particular job and one job only. And that specificity, that perfect fit, brings us to the classic model for how enzymes work. It's a really simple analogy that's been around for ages, and for good reason. It's just so good at explaining the basic idea. This is the famous lock and key model. The idea is simple. The enzyme is the lock, with its uniquely shaped active site. The substrate is the key. And just like a real lock and key, only one specific key is going to fit. It's a perfect, rigid match. Okay, so let's walk through the whole cycle step by step. First, the substrate docks into the active site. Second, they form this temporary little partnership, which we call the enzyme-substrate complex. Third, the reaction happens. The enzyme does its thing, transforming the substrate into new products. And finally, the products get released. The enzyme is now totally free, unchanged, and ready for the next customer. And get this isn't some slow, lazy process. This cycle can happen thousands, even millions of times per second. Now, that lock and key idea is a great starting point, but our understanding has gotten a bit more sophisticated. Today, scientists favor what's called the induced fit model. So in this version, the enzyme isn't a rigid lock. It's actually more like a flexible glove. When the substrate, the hand, binds to it, the enzyme actually changes its shape just a little bit to create an even tighter, more perfect grip. This really maximizes its power to get the job done. But here's the thing. As powerful as these molecules are, they're also surprisingly sensitive. They can't just work under any old conditions. Their activity is hugely influenced by their environment. So let's take a look at what it takes for them to find their operational sweet spot. Temperature is a huge factor. As things heat up, molecules start moving faster, so the enzyme activity increases, but only up to a point. For the enzymes in our own bodies, that peak performance happens right around 37 degrees Celsius. Yep, our normal body temperature. But if you push the heat too much higher, the activity doesn't just slow down, it completely plummets.
So why that sudden nosedive? It's because the enzyme becomes denatured. Honestly, the best way to picture this is to think about cooking an egg. The extreme heat causes the enzyme's complex protein structure to completely unravel and lose its specific shape.
Once that active site is warped, it's game over. The enzyme is permanently broken. And pH is just as critical as temperature. This is where you can really see that enzyme specialization in action. Each enzyme is tuned to the specific pH of its workplace in the body. So, for example, an enzyme called pepsin, which works in the super acidic environment of your stomach, absolutely loves a pH of about 2. But if you were to move it to your small intestine, where trypsin works in a much more neutral pH, that acid-loving pepsin would be instantly denatured and totally useless.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how, but why does any of this molecular chemistry actually matter? Well, because when you start to look, you realize these tiny engines are driving not just our bodies, but pretty much our entire world. I mean, their roles are just incredibly diverse. They're the workhorses of digestion, breaking down our food into fuel we can actually use. They act as our cellular bodyguards, like an enzyme called catalase, which neutralizes harmful toxins in our cells. They even help new life begin by powering the germination of seeds. And it's not just in nature. We've put them to work for us everywhere in industry, from the enzymes in your laundry detergent that just obliterate stains to the ones that help make cheese and even pre-digest baby food. When you boil it all down, it really comes to this. Enzymes are nature's ultimate specialists. They are reusable, they are breathtakingly efficient, and without them, the complex, high-speed chemistry that we call life would be completely impossible. They truly are the invisible workers, tirelessly building, breaking down, and maintaining everything around us and inside of us. Which, it kind of leads to a bigger question. What other invisible forces are out there quietly making our world and our survival possible every single day?